So then as we move into this week, we are in chapter 12. So we're continuing on with the life cycle. So where last week was pregnancy and lactation, this week, now the baby is born. So we're going to go infancy through childhood. So there is a video for you to watch on how to reduce stress through nutrition. So if you are particularly feeling stressful, this video will actually help you. You may know that when you feel stressful, why don't you guys tell me, what are some things that you just gravitate towards that you want to eat?
Sweets.
Sweets. I heard a lot of sweets. Yeah. Chocolate. Yeah. Maybe if you're like me, I like my carbs. So go for like chips or snack food or something like that. These actually can contribute to kind of feelings of stress in our body. It can actually stress what's going on inside, and therefore we can emotionally kind of feel it. And so this video talks about some other foods that you should try when you're feeling stressful and how they can actually satisfy you, but at the same time help to reduce some of the stress that you have going on. And so I'm not going to tell you what it is so that you watch it and kind of go through it, but I think that I think especially given today's society and world that we're living in, it's an extremely valuable lesson and video to watch. There's also an information sheet here on WIC because we are talking about infants and children. And so if you're not familiar with the WIC program, it was established as a safeguard for health for low-income women and for their infants and children up to age 5 so that they would have access to nutritious foods and supplements for their diet to help to keep them fed and to help keep them healthy. And so WIC is mentioned in chapter 12 in your textbook, but I just also threw this little fact sheet up there as some additional information for, maybe somebody that could benefit from it, find out if they're eligible, how it helps. And it talks about, what is nutrition risk and why is it important? So this is just like a helpful supplemental thing that I think you should all kind of take a look at. The PowerPoint is here. This week there is no voiceover on the PowerPoint. So it's just a matter of downloading it and kind of clicking through and going through the slides. And so you'll notice it's going to go through the infant first. And it talks all about breastfeeding versus bottle feeding. And this is going to be extremely important for you to read and go over because, let me go down here. You have 2 assignments this week, and one of them is a paper. All right, your paper is on breastfeeding versus bottle feeding. So let me open up that paper so you can see it. That wasn't what I wanted. All right, your view is going to look a little bit different, but it's out of 50 points. And so what you're doing is, it says every mother of a newborn baby must choose one of 2 methods available to feed her infant. So there's bottle feeding or there's breastfeeding. Both methods have advantages and disadvantages. So I'm asking you to write a 1-page double-spaced paper describing the advantages and disadvantages for both methods. So I don't want this to be a lengthy research paper. I'm not looking for 5 pages. It's 1 page informational so that I know that you can see the advantages and the disadvantages of each. Maybe 5 paragraphs total. All right. So like paragraph on the advantages of bottle feeding and disadvantages of bottle feeding, and then a paragraph on advantages of breastfeeding and a paragraph on disadvantages of breastfeeding. And then lastly, you can do a conclusion. It does say at the end maybe in your concluding paragraph is where you would include this last part, is where you would defend the method that you think is best. So as you wrap it up, kind of as you've kind of summarized advantages and disadvantages of both, tell me which one you think is best kind of in your conclusion. Additionally, while you're writing this paper, I suggest that you do some research on human milk oligosaccharides and include these thoughts kind of in your paper. So this would fall under the breastfeeding category, all right, the human milk oligosaccharides, or HMOs. And you may even be able to find them in some of the bottle feeding methods and some of the formulas. The human milk oligosaccharides are added, but just kind of look into them so you can see what they are and find out, where do you think they go? Are they an advantage, disadvantage, an advantage of one method over the other? So kind of add that in. So your paper should be written in APA format. And so if you use sources, which you hopefully are, please make sure that you cite them at the end of the paper, okay? Now, I know I'm gonna get the question, if I go over one page, am I gonna get points taken off? No, I'm not deducting for points taken off, but I did put one page because I'm trying to limit you. I don't want you guys to be writing lengthy papers, all right? It's really just kind of a quick kind of understanding, make sure that you've got the differences between both, all right? Are there questions on this assignment? Okay. So as we go back, that's one assignment, again, worth 50 points. You go back into our content here, and your other one is a Chapter 12 quiz. All right, 25 points like they are pretty much every week. Multiple choice. Feel free to use your book, use the PowerPoint so that you do well, okay? Because ultimately, once we finish our life cycle unit, you'll have a unit exam, which will be your summative. All right, so you need to do well in these quizzes. As far as optional assignments this week, I have a word wall here, like I always do. I don't know how many of you are doing this or taking advantage of it, but I also included this. These are life cycle questions, specifically for the child and the teen portions of the chapter. You don't have to do these. Again, they're optional. If we were in class, this would be an assignment that we would do. What these questions are, basically, this is just a different format of an outline. All right, and so these questions are going to make sure that you're specifically looking at these pieces of the text and pulling out the important stuff. Some of the things that are on here will definitely be on the quiz. And so making sure that you know the difference between a food allergy and food intolerance, and that you can identify certain food allergies and list the 8 common food allergies. So it's not challenging, but it's written in question format instead of outline format, but it's essentially kind of the same thing. It asks you to look at, obesity in the United States, and list 2 health habits, health habits for children ages 2 to 18 and why they're important. And then it gets into school lunches, which is usually a really interesting conversation because we're all in school and we talk about school lunches. But think back to when you were in school and you were eating the school lunches. What nutritional challenges do students face at lunchtime in regards to consuming a healthy meal? Actually, let's answer that right now. Do you guys remember? What were some nutritional challenges at lunchtime to consuming a healthy meal in school?
I remember, sorry, that's my printer. I'm printing out some papers. But I remember, like, back at school, there wasn't that much, fruit and vegetable options. And even if there were, they would force you to get it. But most people ended up putting it in, like, the waste pile, or, like, not even eating the fruits or vegetables that were on the tray.
So the options were not appetizing.
Yeah. Not really.
Yeah. Anybody else? Nobody? Usually what I would hear a lot from students regarding this was that your lunch period was only 30 minutes and the line to get lunch. How long would you normally wait in line?
Say like 15 minutes probably max, especially if you're at the very end.
So I heard that a lot from students. They'd have a 30-minute lunch and they'd have 15 minutes where they're waiting in line. And so oftentimes they felt really rushed to eat their lunch. And if they were choosing something healthier like a salad, it can take longer, I don't know, to eat than maybe shoving in a couple chicken nuggets really quick. And so that was a challenge. I also had students that would tell me they would get charged extra for asking for like extra dressing or extra sauce or whatever to, like, maybe they wanted it to dip their vegetables in to make them more appetizing or wanted some extra dressing for their salad. And it was kind of a deterrent because they might get charged extra for some of those things. So those were some challenges, at least, that I've heard from students in my classroom about having challenges as eating a healthy meal at lunchtime. All right, as you move on, there's going to be questions in this chapter about growth spurts and the growth spurts for boys and girls and how they differ, and kind of what profound effect does the growth spurt have on the body, and why is nutrition important during this time. So just like we saw in the pregnancy, how the pregnant mom's nutrition was equally important at very specific times in the pregnancy, which we called critical periods, because that was when the nervous system was developing, or that's when the cardiovascular system or the digestive system was developing. What's going on during these growth spurts in these teenage boys and girls that makes eating nutritious meals really important during that time, and what nutrients should they be having? Any guesses here? What nutrients do you think are important for growing boys and girls?
Calcium.
I'm sorry, what?
Calcium.
There you go, calcium, right? So we've got bone health, like bone growth going on, and so we need lots and lots of calcium. Vitamin D is also extremely essential. And I also want you guys to particularly pay attention to iron. All right, iron is going to be mentioned in this chapter. I'm trying to find it in my book. Hold on. 1 second. So iron is specifically mentioned on page 349 as it relates to adolescence, which would be you guys. And I would like to raise awareness of this because I think calcium and vitamin D are, the obvious nutrients that we know we need because we're growing. But iron, we know from doing some of our presentations that is needed for, making blood, and it's really important for energy. But we also find out from reading the text here that it's really influential in having us to stay focused in class, and to perform well on even some standardized testing. So they've actually shown that some students that are low in iron perform poorly on standardized testing, whereas students who have good iron concentrations are able to get more oxygen to their brain and therefore focus more and actually perform better on standardized testing. So it's pretty interesting stuff there as it relates to iron, and specifically to your age and where you are in your growing. And the last part of these questions is, that video I shared with you earlier, how to reduce stress through nutrition. So again, you don't have to do this. You can just watch the video, but try and answer these questions on your own. So what key points is the author making? And do you think she left anything out as nutrition relates to stress? And so just kind of food for thought there. So this is, again, this is extra optional, but it should guide you through the text. This is a fairly long chapter because we're trying to cover so much. We're going from infant all the way through teen. And so we're trying to cover a lot of material here. And so trying to break it down should help a little bit. All right. We can come back and we can hit on some important things in this chapter, but what I really want to focus on with you guys, hopefully you saw my my announcement last week that your class was split, but it looked like the majority of you want to just kind of charge ahead and get this diet analysis project done and complete. So I have been working on putting that together for you. And so that is really what I wanted to spend today kind of going over with you. And if there is time, I could go back and hit chapter 12 with you. But for right now, this is where my focus is. So you can see we're in weeks 11 through 13 for our life cycle. All right. So, but down here, there is a new unit, which is diet analysis. So first of all, let me talk about how I have the folders kind of broken up. The first one are instructions for the diet analysis project. So finding the instructions of what you need is listed in here, including the rubric. And then I have two different folders. This is because you're really going to have kind of two different submissions for this. The first submission is going to be a food log. Before we can analyze your diet, you have to log your food. And so that's where we're going to focus this week, is you spending 3 days logging your food. So ideally, I would not choose Thanksgiving Day to be one of the days that you log your food, because it's really going to skew your results, I assume, because I think most of us tend to overeat at Thanksgiving, and we indulge ourselves and don't always make the best choices. So here's the key, though. You need to strategically think about how you want to do this, because the food log, here are the instructions. Let's go over them together. You need to write down everything that you eat or drink for 3 days, preferably 2 weekdays and maybe 1 weekend. But it doesn't matter how you do it. It also preferably should be 3 consecutive days, so that you can see over a consistent span kind of what you're looking at for your food. What you need to do is you need to measure and record the amounts of food that are served in common portion sizes, such as cups, teaspoons, and tablespoons. This is going to be essential. So you don't just want to say, I had carrots. That's good. But when we go to actually log this into the program, it's going to ask you, how many did you have? And so you need to put it in terms of cups, teaspoons, tablespoons, ounces, if it's liquid, that sort of thing. So you need to try and gauge that. And again, look at that nutrition label to kind of get that information. All right. So indicate how the food was prepared is also important. So if you had chicken, just writing down chicken is not enough. So it's going to change the nutritional value of that meal. And we've talked about this based on how it was prepared. So if it is fried, steamed, baked, raw, etc., you need to include that on your food log. So hopefully you're getting that you need to be as specific as possible as you do this. For number 4, be as specific as possible. Instead of a ham sandwich, write ham sandwich made with 2 slices of whole wheat bread, 4 slices of Sara Lee deli ham, and 1 tablespoon of Hellmann's mayonnaise, and 2 4-inch pieces of lettuce. Don't forget if you added lettuce on there. Also, don't forget if you added condiments on there. All right. If it's a brand name product, for example, like oatmeal, if you know the brand name, write down the brand name. The program that we're using really, it has loaded into it a lot of fast food restaurants. It also has a lot of brand names that you find in grocery stores. There may be instances where you may not be able to pull up Sara Lee deli ham, but Quaker Oats oatmeal is probably going to be in the system. And so it'll just make it easier on you in the long run if you record these with their brand names, so that when you go to type them in, you might even just be able to do a brand name search and then quickly find your food, instead of having to type in, you know, ham and then make sure, okay, it was honey ham, and look that way. It'll just save you some time. Step number 6, be sure to measure and record all those little extras. So if you are going to do this over Thanksgiving, gravies, salad dressings, if you had taco sauce on it, if you used pickles on your sandwich or your sub, if there was jelly on your toast or your bagel, if you added sugar to your drink, if you had coffee and you added sugar, you need to include that tablespoon or teaspoon or however much sugar you added to it, ketchup, margarine, etc., and then tell us the amount so you get the idea. So the whole goal is to try and be as specific as possible. So today's not that far into today. It's 1:25. Maybe you can remember what you've eaten so far today and start logging today. So you could get Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday this week would be good days to log. Or if you need to skip a day, like if you decide to do, I don't know, Tuesday, Wednesday, skip Thursday and do Friday, that's okay. Ideally, like I said, I wouldn't do this over Thanksgiving break, but we weren't quite there. We weren't quite ready for this a couple weeks ago. So yeah. As far as the food log itself, you're going to submit it right here. And let me go to that assignment so you can see what that looks like. All right, so attached you'll find a food log sheet, which you'll make 3 copies of and use to document your food intake for, like I said, ideally 3 consecutive days. Specific food and quantity should be recorded, and your food log should be uploaded for approval. So once you've received approval from me on your food log, the data from that food log can then be entered into our Diet Analysis Plus program, which I'll go over with you in a second, okay? And we're not in week 10. This program will analyze the nutrient components of the food that you consumed. And then from there, you'll be able to complete a full analysis of your diet. So your food log looks like this. Okay, very simple. So your name and your date. All right, you can type this, or if you choose to print this and handwrite it, that's fine. Just make sure that I can read it. You're going to print 3 of these. Okay, so there's 1 document here, but you're doing 3 days. So you need to print 3 of these logs. Okay, so let's say we're starting today. I would circle day 1, and then I'm listing everything that I ate and drank today, including condiments and any extras and everything like that. The serving size is on here. Okay, so again, you know, cup, half cup, teaspoon, tablespoon, ounces, etc. goes here. And then lastly, when did you have this? You can just do an abbreviation. So BR is breakfast, LN is lunch, DN is dinner, or if it was a snack. So don't forget to include those snacks that we have. Don't forget too, if you're out, let's say you do this on Friday and you decide to go Black Friday shopping, and you're getting tired midway through the day and you stop and grab a coffee. Put that on there. Don't forget to include that, even though it wasn't at a traditional meal, and I don't know that I'd count coffee as a snack. It's still a beverage. We need to include that in there. Okay. So you'll do this for day 1 and then print another one, circle day 2, so on and so forth. You'll upload all 3 of these to the assignment for me to look at and get approval. The reason we're doing this before we put it into the system is so that I can look and be like, you're missing information here. This is not going to go into the system well. Or I can ask you questions like, did you really not eat breakfast that day? Or, we can kind of go on that way. If you don't eat, like if you're skipping a meal and you're skipping breakfast, that's fine. Don't make something up because we want to get a true analysis. I can just tell you from experience, though, if you miss a meal, you're very likely going to be deficient in nutrients. It's very, very hard to get all of the nutrients that your body needs by skipping a meal. So try and put in as much information as possible as you can. I don't want to go any farther before I stop and see if there are questions.
So you said we could include like drinks and stuff like that. Do we just label it as drinks in that one column, or?
Yeah, so I guess here I could change that to like food, drink, like that. Does that make sense?
Okay, sounds good.
So
On
like,
the right, the farthest column.
oh, over here, food, snack. Oh, so you want to drink? Yeah, I guess you could do that. You could do it either way. You could do it that way, or you could
cool.
You could just add a new line, say, coffee. I don't know. What do you normally get? What size coffee you get? Anybody drink coffee?
Oh, I don't drink coffee, but
I'm not a coffee drinker. I figure most people do, especially when they're out shopping. All right, 12 ounces, and then over here, I guess I would just say drink, or I guess you wouldn't call it a snack. I guess you would just say drink. Yeah, that's fine. Just do it that way. Does that answer your question? I think you're frozen, Camille.
Sorry, I didn't mean to be tedious or anything.
That's okay. Does that answer your question? Does that help?
Yeah, thank you.
Yep. Okay. Anybody else? Questions on the food log? Okay. Let's see then. Here is the next big question for you. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Sorry. All right. I would like this to be due by Sunday. Can we do that? Can everybody give me a thumbs up if Sunday works, or if that's going to be a problem, then send me a message and let me know. Okay, Sunday it is then. Go ahead and put it in. Sunday at 11:59. And so 15 points, you'll get 5 points for each day's worth of food logs. Go ahead and make this visible. All right, so now you have 3 assignments this week. Your breastfeeding, bottle feeding, your quiz, and then your food log. So let's go back to our content. And let me get into some more specific details about this diet analysis. All right, so our food log, this folder I have hidden from you. I don't have this open yet. And that's because I don't want there to be any confusion about what you're supposed to submit or where. So eventually, like we said, we're going to put this into a computer program and we're going to run an analysis. And then you're going to have some work to do from there. You're going to have to really analyze your food, look at your nutrient deficiencies. You're also going to analyze and look at where you're in excess. And you're going to actually create tables and charts and show me those deficiencies and excesses. And then you're going to have to actually type a written analysis, which is going to be about 2 pages, where you're saying, okay, this is where I can make some improvements. This is what I need to work on in my diet to make sure that I'm getting these nutrients, or I did not realize that by eating this particular food, it was causing me to go way over in excess of sodium, for example. So I should limit the intake of that specific food. So that's down the line yet. We're not there. We're not ready for that. You'll have a couple weeks to work on that. that's something that we'll do between when we come back from Thanksgiving and Christmas break. All right, so that's a lengthier part of the project. And so I have this closed off because I don't even want anybody working on that yet. Okay. So I've pretty much gone over the instructions. Let me show you one other thing. What happened? That's not what I wanted. All right, we'll go through it this way. So we're going to be using a program called Diet Analysis Plus. And you're going to be using Cengage. So I don't know, can you see this link down here that I have? Right here on the left? This is going to open up Cengage, and what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to create an account. So I have an arrow here. All right, and so this is pretty much step-by-step of how you're supposed to do it. You're going to create an account, use your email address. I would use your student email address and your password, create a password. Although in all honesty, this is really for you. It doesn't really need to be tied to Sussex Tech. Whatever email address that you check regularly, I think would be fine. And then set up the account. So you're going to fill in the boxes like you normally would, and you need to make sure that you agree to the terms. And then please make sure that you write your password down, because once we get into using this program, you're going to need to be in this program for several days. Okay. Also, do not create this account until you have received approval from me to actually start logging your food. Here's the reason why. The college students at Del Tech had to purchase the book through Del Tech, and in doing so, they got access to this program. It came with their textbook. You guys did not purchase a textbook, and therefore, technically, you do not have free access to this program. We have a little workaround here where we have a 2-week window of access to this program, but it's from the day that you sign up and register. So if you register today, you're locking yourself into the next 2 weeks being done. And I'm not ready for that yet because I want to approve your food logs. So I'm showing you this, but please, I know some of you are eager. Don't sign up and create this account yet. If anything, we'll wait and we'll probably begin creating these accounts next week. Okay? Is that clear? Does everybody understand that? Okay, because once the 2 weeks is up, you're going to get locked out of this account, and it's going to say you have to pay for it, and it's like a crazy amount of money. So we're going to use it for free for 2 weeks. Okay, that's kind of the workaround. So you'll create this account. Once you get in there, there is an icon that says Diet and Wellness Plus. It's a little apple with a plus sign. We'll click on that. And then you will complete a wellness profile by clicking on this button right here. This is going to ask you information about your birthday, your sex, your height, your weight, your if you're a smoker, if you're a non-smoker. Now, this information is confidential, so I'm not going to see things like your height and your weight and things like that. What I will see, though, is it will give you like a body mass index score. And so we talked about that body mass index showing you like for your height and your weight, if you're proportioned properly. So that's why it's asking these questions. And it's also gender specific too. It's going to calculate based on your gender, your height, and your weight, as well as this activity log questionnaire down here as to how many calories you should be consuming kind of each day. So we need to make sure that you get this information in here correctly.
I looked, you weren't on that, and I just left you off that text accidentally. I just went through and I'm like, how did I?
That's okay. No worries. That's all right. All right. So anyway, this is going to calculate the total calories that it thinks that you should be consuming in a day. And so we want to make sure this information is accurate, because when you're logging your food, if you're not meeting your caloric intake or you're going over, it's going to be saying you're under or over based on the information that you put on this wellness profile. Are there questions on that? Okay. As we get more into it, this this wellness profile will also ask questions about your activity. Are you playing sports? How active are you? Because it figures all of that into the calculation. All right. Again, we've got our food log, which we've talked about. And then once we get there, we'll be ready to track our diet for 3 days. So we'll use this button to track our diet. We will then try to find our food. All right. And enter the food that we've eaten for the day. Initially, you can try and be generic and click go. You can, if you want, you can be bold. I think most of your brand names will be in there, so you can check them. Click on the food that's closest to the one that you actually ate. And then there are some suggestions so you can narrow down the category filter as you get into it. I don't want to go into too much detail because I know we're not doing this week. I just want you to have an idea of what's coming. Again, units of measurement will pop up and you'll have to select when did you put this in, breakfast, lunch, dinner, or snack. So actually, Camille, that reminds me. So you asked about the drink a second ago. This is going to be your options for putting it in. So I guess just choose what's best. If it goes closest with breakfast, lunch, dinner, or a snack, because you're not going to have the option, I don't think, to put in drink. Those would be your only drop-down choices. And then once it's all said and done, just so you can get the idea of what's coming, the end report, you'll click reports. You're going to click a combination report. I'll go in, I know I'm going fast. I'll go through this next week in more detail. And then you're going to look at the 3-day average. And then here's what your report is going to look like. So you're going to see, I know this is really hard to see. Let me see if I have this bigger. I'm sorry. I know I have this bigger. Is that any better? Maybe a little bit. So your report, thanks, Eliana. All right, so you'll see, for example, it's going to give you saturated fat, and then there'll be a bar graph. And so what you guys are going to do is you're going to look at the bar graph, and anything that you're in excess of 20% of normal is going to be something that we want to pay attention to, or anything that you are deficient, 20% deficient of your goal, we want to look at. So it's going to, again, your goal is going to be specific to you based on information that you put in on the profile when you first start. On this report, it says calories is a 90%. She's at 90% of her goal. So that's actually pretty good. So she's within a normal range. Protein, again, she's at 95% of her goal. Carbohydrates, 110% of her goal. This is all within normal limits. Even though it's 110%, she hasn't gone in excess of 20% of normal. So basically, if you're going in excess of 20%, it would have to be over 120. All right. If you're looking at deficiencies and it's under 20% deficient, it will be anything under 80%. Okay. So far, this person looks like their total fat here, they're at 127% of what their goal is. And so that puts them in excess for their total fat. Okay. So this would be one that they would want to report on, and then eventually look at the food that caused them to go over 120% for their fat. Okay, so again, here it is, total fat's 120%, and then their dietary fiber down here is only 55%, and so they're very deficient in fiber. So these would be examples of two things that they would want to report. All right, they would also want to report here, I don't know why it's not included, but their fatty acids, linoleic and linoleic, would be reported. So this is an example of what I've gotten in the past of what a diet analysis might look like that gets turned into me. You'll be able to save the report as a PDF. You'll be able to print the report. And then I have students that go through and they'll highlight and they'll write next to it excess or deficient. I have some students who are really super organized and they'll color code, and deficient will be like orange highlights and excess will be yellow highlights or something like that. And so then you type your deficiencies report. So we talked about they were deficient in fiber. So in order for this deficiencies to be relevant, to make sense for you, you have to know, how can I improve my fiber? It's not good enough to just know that you're deficient in fiber. What we need to know is, what foods can you eat? What foods can you add to your diet that can actually improve your fiber content? So this particular person, you're going to have to list 3. And so they listed prunes, bran, and legumes as 3 sources that they would add to improve their fiber content in their diet. All right. So every nutrient that you're deficient in, you will essentially include this information, which is why I said if you miss a meal, you are almost certainly going to be deficient, which is ultimately going to make your written analysis report much longer. Okay, it's going to make it more lengthy on you. I'm not telling you to eat breakfast if you don't eat breakfast. I'm not saying to do that. Just kind of realize that there's really no way to kind of miss a meal and not have a lot of deficiencies. On the opposite end of things, so on the written analysis report for excess, so if you were over 120%, you don't have to go through and list the foods that would cause you to be over in fat. Or this example here has sodium in it. You've already eaten those foods. So we want to know, what foods is it that you specifically are eating that you should be aware of to cut back on. And so every food that you enter into the system is going to get logged. And so what you'll be able to do is, let's look at this one. So here's sodium. Okay, all these items here all have sodium in them, and they listed the amounts in milligrams. So we have, this one has highlighted spaghetti with tomato sauce, and they said it was meatless, was 627 milligrams of sodium. So that would be worthy of putting on the report. You're going to list the 3 highest sources. There's actually one higher on here, which is up here. The Jimmy Dean sandwich was 700 milligrams of sodium. So I would list the Jimmy Dean sandwich, the tomato sauce, and then the 3rd highest one here would be the Green Giant steam peas, looks like. All right. Now, that being said, this is a snapshot of one day. You're putting in 3 days. So you have to look at your excess over 3 days, your 3 highest sources over 3 days. You don't have to give me the 3 highest sources each day. What are the 3 highest sodiums that you're getting across all of your foods? All right, questions on this part? Okay. And so this is how you would write this. Sodium, you would put what you were above and over, what the goal was, and what your actual intake was. So the goal for this person was 1,500 milligrams, and they actually took in 2,500 milligrams, almost 1,000 milligrams over that 3-day period. So the 3 highest sources were spaghetti with tomato sauce, 1 can of chicken noodle soup, and medium McDonald's French fries. All right. And then lastly, your summary. I've actually revamped this a little bit. I have some more questions to give you some more guidance, but in general, what are your specific dietary goals? Would you or did you make any changes to your diet as a result of this product? Do you take a vitamin and mineral supplement? And do you think you should as a result of doing this project? And then water. Water is something, I'm glad I actually read this. That's a good point. Water is something you will log. It is a nutrient. And so water is something you want to log. So if you are drinking water throughout the day, make sure you're putting that on your food log. All right. So even though I know it doesn't have nutrients in it, we're not going to be seeing calcium pop up because we drank water. It will track your water intake and say if you were deficient in water. Most of us are not drinking excess. So it'll let you know if you're hitting your mark on water. So make sure you're including water on your logs. So in final, when we submit this final project, you'll have your 3-day food intake logs, which is what we're working on this week. And then this combination report, which is the big thing, which will take several weeks to complete. It'll be the actual combination report, which is what you saw the highlights that the student had done their highlights on. Then you also have your typed report, a deficiency page, an excess page, and then a final typed summary of your findings. So this is a 100-point summative. As you can see, it's a huge project, but it's an excellent project. It encompasses everything we've talked about thus far, and it's really applicable. It's not, I hope you don't see this as like a, oh my gosh, a huge thing to just kind of do and get done. I hope you see this as a tool. I have personally done this project because I find it beneficial. And I think you can even do this every year and kind of analyze 3 different days, you know, as you look and see, am I getting better? Am I improving? Or, you know, how am I doing? It's kind of like a report card for our nutrition. And so I really enjoy this project, and my students, while they, you know, kind of gripe a little about the amount of work that goes into it, they usually say this is like very beneficial and one of the things that they are really glad that they took away from taking this class. So, all right. So I don't even have that folder open for you so you don't go in accidentally. Actually, I think I'm going to close that link too, because I don't want anybody accidentally clicking on and creating an account this week. I'll probably close off that link. I just want you doing the food log. All right, questions, comments, concerns?
If anything, this just feels like a wake-up call, to be honest.
Yeah, it is. It will be. And hopefully after I showed you all the details of it, maybe now you can see why Thanksgiving would probably not be a good day to log
Yeah.
food. It's really going to skew your stuff. So yeah, just kind of keep that in mind. I would really try and focus on today, tomorrow, and Wednesday would probably be your most normal days this week. And you can even backtrack. Like if you remember what you ate yesterday, it's not too far off. If you can remember everything you ate and drank, you can log yesterday too. So just, you know, you guys, you can figure it out. I'm not concerned. And I'll take a look at what you submit this week and make sure everybody's got the stamp of approval to move ahead. All right, cool. All right, well, that's all I have for you. If questions come up, then send me a message. You can send me an email, or you can message me on Schoology. Either way is fine. I can get up with you either way. And in the meantime, good luck with all your assignments this week. I really hope you guys all have a wonderful Thanksgiving and spend it with hopefully your families, and eat some good food.